Hello and welcome to training for the BK radio, the KNG P150S. And this is currently what the Forest Service is using throughout the states right now. So we're going to go over many options on the radio. So if you have the radio with you, it'd be best to have it in your hand so we can go over the options and then answer any questions after the end. So to the top of this radio, you have your channel or your on-off button and volume select, your channel select knob, which is indicated here around it. It does have a bezel that goes from 1 to 16. You then have a color switch behind this, which has basically an on-off, so you know what you're doing, and you can change it just by with your finger from on and off. We'll go over that in a little bit. You then have your antenna coupler, and the antenna is just off this, which is a little bit easier to train on that. You have an orange button right now that is programmed for your light, and your light will stay on until you turn that, the light for the keypad. That will stay on until you actually turn it off. You then have two programmable toggle switches, one for scan and one for priority. When they're reversed like they are right now to the back of the radio, they are off or disengaged. When you push them to the front, like this one is for the scan, you then use that option is then lit up or used. So it's for the scan and for the priority. For right now, we're just going to leave those back. On the side of the radio, you have three buttons. You have your top button, your bottom button, and then your push to talk or push to think button. On the front of the radio, there are four programmable buttons. You have your diamond, your up and down arrow keys, and then a square key. And all these can be programmed via the computer programming. And then you have a full functional keypad that can be used for many, many different functions, and we'll go over that in a little bit. So for right now, on the radio, it shows your top display, which will usually show your channels and what they are. Right now, your ForestNet repeater is a priority 2, and I will go over that later. You then have your scan, that this channel is actually in the scan group. And then you have your battery option to see how good your battery is. So right now we're in zone 4, channel 1 realm, and a lot of the companies are now using zones. There's zones, groups, banks, and many different things that people call it, but BK Radio realm wants to use these as zones. So right now we're in ForestNet repeater, and we're using tone 11. And we'll go over the different things and how to change that tone out. So right now there are 4 programmable buttons, like I said up top, and they coincide with what is underneath them. So if you want to do anything with your priority, you'll hit this button. With your zone, you will press this button. Transmit code guard, press this button. In menu, you will press this button. So we're going to start from left to right, and this is your priority button. So your priority button, you can come up with priority 1 and priority 2. Right now, priority 1 is set for whatever your channel knob is set at. So it will follow you between channel 1 through 16. So that's your priority 1. You can then set your priority 2. Like I said, the corresponding buttons, this is an up button, this is a down button. So we want to go down to priority 2. So we're going to press the down button, priority 2, and then we're going to press this enter button over here. So now you can set priority 2 for global, meaning the entire radio, or you can set it as a per zone. So right now we're just going to leave these alone, but you can set it to whatever you want. So it says escape or ESC or enter, so that would get you into that global setting. And like I said, you could change that for the entire radio. So right now we're going to get out of that and press escape. And now we're back into where it says priority channel. We're going to press that again and escape that. Okay, so next on the list is cloning. And this feature allows cloning of the radio, whether your radio receives a clone or it clones another radio. So right now we're going to press the enter button. So there's 3 different things that you can do. So it's called active zone, so meaning the current zone you're in. You can go zone to zone, so zone 1 to zone 1 on the other radio, zone 16 to 16, things like that. And then the next one is the entire radio. So if you want to clone the entire radio, that's really good for the Comtechs, not on the incidents, but the actually that are in the forest, and so they can go back and through and maybe don't have to have a computer every time they program a radio. So you can go right from radio to radio. So the most one that you're probably going to use out on an incident, on a fire assignment, is the active zone, so the zone that you have. But let your Comtech do that's in the comm unit, and we can go from there. So then you just press escape, and then you're out of that. And the next thing we'll go over is zone scan. Okay, continuing zone scan, you can scan the entire radio if you would like. But if you have a frequency, let's say that you're listening to the Santa Lucia Ranger District and you want to listen to everything here in the south, and then you only want to listen to one frequency up in the north, you can do that. But you have to make sure that that zone is in the scan list. So if you press enter, it's either on or off. Very simple, on or off. So this one happens to be on. You can hit enter or escape. So if you press enter, it's going to save the settings, and now that zone is in your scan list. So the next thing is the zone scan list. So press enter. And once again, if it has a plus sign next to it, that means that you're scanning that zone. You may not have any frequencies programmed into it, but you know that you're going to scan that zone. So as you go down through your radio, you're going to say it's, pretty much everything here. Ventura, Region 5, NIFC, Interop, CAL FIRE, Interop. That was the last fire I was on. And then you have user groups, or user zones, that you can use, and some of those are not scanned, some are. If you just press escape, it's going to keep you into the same zone. It's just not going to do anything. So that's about it. With the zone scan, you can plus or minus that zone in there and scan what you'd like. So the next here is the squelch set. So you can set the squelch of the radio just by simply pressing this button. So we're going to press the enter. And it's either per preset or user set. So right now the Comtechs have set the radio to what they feel is a preset section for this. If you remember the old radios, up on the top knob you had a squelch setting you could do, but now it's all internal in the radio. So you can actually do a user set. So you'll press the enter button, and then you can adjust that squelch simply by pushing the up and down arrow keys. So if you get that, press enter, it's going to say saving set. Okay, continue on here. The next thing we're going to look at is user received tones. Now with everything having a receive and a transmit tone on, it may not be the same. So in here you can actually go in and change the receive tones. So once again, press enter. And the default right now is 0, 0. But you can go through the 32 tones that you need, either once again by pressing the up and down arrow key, or if you know the tone that you want to go to, you can press that and then press enter. So then you can set up for your different tones. Okay, next we have transmit power. The radio can be set from high of 5 watts to low to 1 watt. So let's press that and get into there. So it's either high or low, like I said, 5 or 1 watt. So if you're out in the field and you don't need to transmit that high wattage off to the repeater, you're just using a tactical net between you and your crew, you can go down to low, press enter, setting saved, and now you are only using 1 watt of power and saving a lot on the battery life. So it's a good thing to do. So right now we're going to go back in and set that back to high and save and set. Next one will be surveillance. So on the surveillance mode, what it does is it turns off the light. There's no way to turn that light back on, even if you had a switch that you could turn it back on from one of the side buttons or the top buttons. So you go into enter, and it's either on or off. Press that, and when the light comes back on, you will not be able to turn that light back on. So now we're just going to go to, I want that off, meaning I want their surveillance off, not on. And back to that. Next one is keypad programming. Okay, next we have keypad programming, and you can go in and actually from the keypad, that's why it's here, be able to add a channel. So we'll go through it real quick, but some of the things that I know the technicians would rather you not do and not change. So if you're going to play with keypad programming, go into one of the user zones down on like 30, 31, 32 and play with them there. That way you're actually not changing anything on here. So you're going to go into keypad programming, and the password. The password is 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Enter. And now you get channels, zone perimeters, or global perimeters. So these are all things that most of the technicians are going to use and be able to see what's going on in the radio and things that they can change. Like I said, once again, let's don't change these, but at least you know they're there and you can go in and do it on one of the user groups that's meant just for that. So we'll go escape and get out of that keypad programming. And so the next one is version. Okay, on version, it's just going through a lot of the areas that the technician needs to know about, the version of the radio, so the last time it maybe was programmed, or actually the version of the program that's being used. So we'll go into enter, and the system mode is 1.4.13. Doesn't mean a lot to the end user, but to a technician, he or she will be able to see when the radio was last programmed. And there's a lot of other different codes in here that mean absolutely nothing to the end user, but they are there and available. So then the next thing will be contrast adjust. Okay, with contrast adjust, by pressing the enter button, you can go in and change the contrast of the radio. The front pad here. So right now it's set for what is great for indoors and for outdoors. But if you do need to change that, you can. And just by using the up and down arrow keys, you can see how the contrast will change on the front pad. So if you get to something that you don't know, so we're going to go back to about where it was, press enter, and the savings are set. And that's a bit on the contrast. The next one is radio status. With radio status, once again, a lot of the things for the communications technician to see what's going on in the radio, what's on and what's off. As you can see, a lot of the things that are plussed over here means that they're currently status is working, and then you can just go down the arrow keys and see what's what's going on. It'll go through a lot of different things and then come back to the 0. So press escape and just get out of that. And those are the listings for the menu options. And you can go through and review all these separately as you wish. So now we're going to escape and go back into the main part of the radio. Okay, I want to thank you for attending the training for the BK Radio KNG P150S model. This model right now is being used by the Forest Service throughout the United States. This training is specific to the Los Padres National Forest and how they have their radio currently programmed. So thank you once again for allowing me to do this training. And if you have any questions, you can please contact your radio technicians. You have 2 on this forest, and see if you need anything from them. And that'll do it. Thank you very much. And this will do it for your required 1-hour radio training for the Wildland Refresher course, the RT-130.